Okay, so welcome to the Keeping It Rural Girls Network. Becca, along with myself, are really excited for this guest. Actually, we've waited for him for a long time. Do you know that, Zach? We've waited for you for a long time.
I did not know that. Now the pressure's on, though.
We have the millennial farmer, Zach Johnson, joining us today. He's a family farmer from West Central Minnesota. You've made farming cool again, right?
I hope so. That is a comment that I've gotten a few times. I don't know exactly how to take that because I always thought farming was cool, but every
I
time
know,
I've gotten
right?
it's been a positive comment. So yeah, it's a cool one to get for sure.
Yeah.
So how many followers are you up to now?
On YouTube right now, as we record this, we are a little over 999,000. So we should hit 1 million like tomorrow or the following day.
Dang. So this is like a milestone in your area as well.
Yeah, this is something we've waited for and worked towards for a long time. So it's exciting.
Yeah. And you mentioned so let's back this train up. How did all this start? Who is involved in all the production? Is it the millennial farmer? Is it millennial farmer and team? How did all this happen?
So I'll answer that kind of in two parts. It started in the spring of 2016, and it was 100% just to try to reach people about what's going on in the family farms out here in rural America. I just wanted to relate to people, relate to consumers about, why we use certain management practices that we do. Wanted to be fully transparent and just show them, hey, this is why we use genetically modified seed on our farm. These are the benefits of it. This is why we choose to use it. This is why we install drain tile. This is why we use pesticides and how those are regulated and how we use, the smallest amount possible. And we don't want to use any extra. This is how we regulate our fertilizer. This is my family. This is what we do. We've been here for 155 years and we're still the same family doing what we love to do. It really took off on me about a year and a half into it. So it was nothing more than a hobby. I had people watching. I had some subscribers. Maybe, I think a year and a half into it, I had about 7,000 subscribers. So people were watching. I mean, that was really motivating for me. And that year, it would have been the fall of 17 that things took off. And we decided to push a little bit more. And by the fall of 18, things were just skyrocketing for us. Things were snowballing. And it got to a point where we could see the benefits of it. We knew we really had something here. My wife and I decided we needed to take off with that and see where it would go. But we also knew that, being a full-time farmer, I couldn't handle all that myself. And we got lucky just with the timing of it all. We were in sort of a transition period in our life where we sold the home that we were in, and we were in the process of purchasing the farmhouse for my parents that I'm sitting in right now. So this was all fall of 18 before harvest. Actually, through harvest, our family of 5 lived in the farm shop.
Nice.
So every day I'd get up, I'd put my boots on, and I was at work. We were firing up the combine at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the kids were getting ready for school. And we were trying to figure out how to get videos edited and through YouTube and get the whole deal figured out. And it took off on us and it snowballed. It got bigger and bigger. And I said, you know what? I need help with this. And my wife, she had done at-home daycare at our old home for over 9 years. And she knew when we moved out here to the farm that she enjoyed it, but it wasn't what she wanted to do forever. She didn't want to continue it once we moved to here. And so it kind of worked out timing wise where she could take over the back end of Millennial Farmer. And that was taking off enough to support that. And so for the last 4.5 years since then, now it's really been a team effort to, record the videos, edit the videos, post the videos, work with the sponsors, line up podcasts like this, and do everything that surrounds the millennial farmer.
Man, I can't believe she didn't want to run a babysitting business out of the farm shop.
Well, we're in the house now, but daycare was really rewarding for her and she got to raise our kids at home and everything. But we knew our kids were, at least a couple of them had gotten a little bit older, and it just wasn't something we wanted to take into the new space. Not new house, it's not a new house, but into the new space that we were in. We knew it wasn't something that she was going to do for 30 years.
Well, that is refreshing to know that change is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're an educational podcast and we're primarily targeting egg education in the classroom. What do you have to say to kids up and coming and where the family farm scenario is today, how hard it is to get started? What's your advice to the young generation coming up?
Well, first off, you have to remember that agriculture is agriculture. I mean, everything starts on the farm. Everything starts with the soil and with the livestock. I mean, that's how we provide the food, fiber, and fuel for everybody, right? And there's not a whole lot of us in that at the ground level that are directly involved with that industry. Agriculture has a promising future because it's agriculture. What are you going to do without it? It really can't go away. In one form or another, we have to have agriculture to provide for us. And there isn't a one size fits all within farming. All the farms look different. There's a lot of similarities to my neighbors, but as I travel the country and I've gotten to really experience the things that I have, the stuff that's come with Millennial Farmer, I get to see how different agriculture is, even just within the same industry, how different it can be. You know, big farms, small farms, row crops, livestock, orchard farms, vegetable stuff, specialty stuff. I mean, there's farming out there that I guarantee people haven't heard of. You know, there's definitely farming out there that any students listening to this or hearing this, there's stuff that you don't even know is going on out there. And it all has to do with agriculture. And it's all different, you know, find what suits you, find what your passion is, and try to work into that. Not all the farms have to look like whatever farmer you might follow on YouTube. There's a lot of really successful farmers out there doing very well on, you know, small acres or small amounts of livestock, maybe running CSAs and selling vegetables or meat directly to consumers, whether that's through farmers markets or like online subscriptions. However you want to do it, there are niche markets out there right now that are doing really well. And I think that's going to provide a lot of opportunity for the people that may not know how to get their foot in the door otherwise.
And you created a video not long ago explaining just how size does not matter as much. Type of equipment does not matter as much. The total scope of your project is nothing compared to what you're doing as a production agriculturalist. Can you just share with us and the kids listening and those farmers that are listening, just what are the qualities that makes a good agriculturalist compared to when we think about size, production qualities, all of that, pushing all that to the side, what does make a good farm and a good farmer?
To me, it's all about whatever suits you. I mean, what do you want for your farm? Obviously, we want to be able to manage the natural resources and do a good job with that. That's important, right? If we don't do that, there won't be a future with that land or that water. So we need healthy soil. We need clean water. We need to treat livestock appropriately. Anybody involved in the industry knows that. Anybody with livestock knows that. You have to treat the livestock well. So I think it's about finding your passion and what suits you, what fits you, you know, as the agriculturalist, right? As the farmer. How do you want to be involved in the industry? A lot of people, you know, they look at what they see on YouTube. They might watch Millennial Farmer and they might think we're sitting on, you know, 30,000 acres and always brand new machinery. We're not. It's Dad and I. We are the only two full-time people out here. Yeah, we have some newer machinery. We're running 2,400 acres, but you don't have to break into the industry doing that. My dad certainly didn't start there, and he was actually fifth generation. And he didn't start there. Find what seems to make sense to you and go with it. There's a lot of different ways to go about that. I've got a good friend right now who is working his way into a pretty large row crop farm. And he's doing that by having worked with them now for almost 15 years. He shows up every day. He works hard. He has a passion for the industry. And they have seen that in him. And then between the two brothers that own the farm, they've only got one son that has an interest in agriculture. He can't manage the whole farm by himself. So they have brought my buddy on now, and he's actually farming like 10 or 20% of their land this year, and they're bringing him into the farm. He's first generation.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity there where the door opened up for him and they could see that he had what it took and he wanted to do it. And I'm pretty excited for him to have that opportunity.
Oh, that's super exciting. I feel like that's an opportunity that did not exist decades ago. We just didn't.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head when you were talking about not having all the new stuff and making sure that's something these kids really know about.
You know, I've mentioned how diverse agriculture is. Well, just because you have new equipment doesn't mean that you're doing better than the guy down the road that's got, you know, 40-year-old equipment and half of them are tore apart in the shop half the time. There's a lot of farms out there that do very well with older equipment or smaller equipment or whatever it is. Again, whatever fits you, whatever fits your operation, whatever you are able to do and whatever you can do.
So one thing that we deal with a lot in terms of education, and I know that Lindsay as a full-time butcher has dealt with this tons too, is we call them the haters or the people that are they're questioning, they're skeptical, whatever it is, they're not afraid to bring up that negative side of what we do. I know you've dealt with your fair share of those people as well. They just have a lot of questions and they come across a little more racy and skeptical than anything. And so what advice do you have for agriculturalists, for students, for anyone day to day in terms of dealing with those people and those comments that come across as hurtful, as negative, as skeptical, and how we should take those moving forward?
To me, there's two different types of comments in what I do, and I'll address them one at a time. So the first comment comes from, the non-farming consumer that probably honestly just has genuine concerns about what's going on. They've probably heard some negative stuff, whether it's about livestock or GMOs or drain tile or irrigation or pesticides, whatever. And I think the first thing to remember is that person probably just has real genuine concerns. I don't get up every day and think about how to be a better lawyer or a better doctor or a better accountant, because that's not what I do. I wake up and I think about farming. And the people who do wake up and think about other careers that they've got, they're not involved in the farming industry the way we are, but they're still concerned about the food that we provide for them. And so they probably just have genuine concerns. The way to address that with the non-farming consumers is to remember that they're a person who probably has genuine concerns, and be respectful when you talk to them, when you answer their concerns. Keep in mind too, sometimes if these people are not being respectful and it's obvious what their game plan is and what their angle is, you're probably not going to change their mind on anything. And the best thing to do, quite honestly, is to ignore it. It's difficult, but you have to just let that go. Let it roll off your shoulders. Get rid of it. It's not negativity that you need. Again, difficult to do. Sometimes I'll just delete those comments if they really bother me and I really want to get into it with them, but you have to just let it go. Then the second type of hurtful comment or hater comment that I get, and this surprised me when I started my channel, but this is actually the majority of my hate out there, my haters. They're other farmers. And that really surprised me, but 99% of the hate that I get comes from other farmers.
And why is that?
I don't know, but it was extra hurtful when I started seeing that, because, this is the industry that I'm trying to stick up for. It's the reason I started the channel, and it's also where my hate comes from. I think, it all comes from, and I hate to say it, but in some way or another, it's a form of jealousy. They don't like the attention that I'm getting. They want to be smarter than the guy on the internet. It just is what it is. And there again, most of the time, I have to ignore it. I can get into it with them if I want. It never turns out for the better. You just have to ignore it. And the big thing that I've really come to realize, and this took me a long time to really understand this, but if they're coming online to drag me down for trying to stick up for agriculture, no matter what I'm doing on my farm, why does it concern them? And to me, it really makes sense to look at it from a point of view that's more their problem than mine. If they have a big problem with what I'm doing, really that's an internal issue with them, because I don't care what they're doing. I'm doing just fine out here. I'm enjoying my life. Things are going well for me. There's some sort of bitterness within them that has made them decide to act out on other people that they don't even know. And so that's really the way that I look at it now. And most of the time I just have to ignore it again.
What would you tell a young person wanting to get started in social media, portraying agriculture?
I would say, number one, be yourself. And I know that sounds like cheesy and cliche, but in all reality, you can't pretend to be somebody that you're not. People will pick up on that. So number one, be yourself, and who you are is who you are. And if people want to pick that apart, then there again, like I said, that's a problem with them. And that's really something where eventually they're going to need to look inside themselves and try to figure that out. It shouldn't take energy from you. It shouldn't take energy from me to try to figure out why somebody doesn't like me online. Mm-hmm. Oh, another stranger doesn't like what I'm doing. What can I do about that, right?
But I'm guessing at the beginning of all this, there were probably times where those hits did hurt a little bit, or they took on your confidence. How did you figure out how to deal with that?
I wish I had that silver bullet answer. Sometimes I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with that. Yeah. But I think it all comes down to the fact that if you put yourself out there, you're opening yourself up to, that criticism, and it's going to come. And as long as the people within your circle are supportive of you and what you're doing, and, your family supports you, your friends support you, those around you support you for the most part, it really shouldn't matter what a stranger online thinks. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're doing something malicious, it shouldn't matter.
So hold on to what you started with, what your goal was.
And the other thing too is I don't want to hound on the negativity too much, because in all reality, it is 99% positive feedback that I get. It really sucks that it's that little 1% that just nitpicks away at you, right? But you got to remember that most of it's positive.
On the bad days, remember that most of them are good. And that's solid advice. So thank you for dealing with the negative too and telling us about that. That's important stuff. Speaking of some of those good things and thinking about how often we deal with those positive feedback that you talk about, when you look back, what was the initial goal of all this? You said it was to share about agriculture, about farming, but what goals did you have in coming out of it, looking into the future? And then now, what are you looking at doing? What's the next step?
You know, when I started, it really was just a hobby. That's all it was. I was taking my energy that was built up inside me, and some of that, I was a little bit irritated by the negativity that I was seeing online from people that I thought should have a better understanding of agriculture. And I finally decided to quit arguing with my sister-in-law and create this channel and use the energy there and just say, hey, this is what's really going on. And whoever wants to watch can watch. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. But this is what I'm going to spend my energy on, is, creating this new way of me getting that information out there to be an advocate for the industry in some way, shape, or form. And that is all that it was. There weren't any goals. I guess looking back, goal number one probably was just to consistently make a few videos throughout the growing season and go from planting through harvest, and then just go, okay, well, now what? I did that. I went through the growing season, and the people that found it and decided they wanted to watch, they watched me. Where it goes from there, I guess I didn't have any plans. I didn't know if I'd do it again. I remember the second year then, when we started in the spring and we were getting ready for planting, I remember trying to decide, do I keep making videos? What do I do here? Because I probably had 3,000 subscribers. Maybe it was getting 1,000 or 2,000 views on the videos. And it was like, yeah, it's motivating, but I never had the plan to make any money with it or do it for 5 years or anything like that. And so like that second year, I didn't make too many videos because I felt like I've already done this. I've already talked about planting and spraying and harvesting and working on the machinery. So I didn't make too many videos. And then beginning of harvest in 17, one of the videos that I made, which was all because I hadn't made a video in like 6 weeks. And so I just pulled out the GoPro, made a video, and it was one 17-minute clip where I was walking around the farm, didn't have anything prepared or anything. It was just like, some of the people are asking where I've been, so I'll just show them what's going on. And all of a sudden it was like, boom, that video got 100,000 views in 2 or 3 days. And it was like, what just happened? And so I decided, okay, well, that was motivating. I'll make a video every 3-4 days here. So I made a video every 3-4 days that fall, and I'd get done at 10 o'clock at night. I'd go in the shop and I would edit for 2 more hours before I went to sleep, and I'd throw it up on YouTube in the morning. And I was pushing to try and get 2-3 videos out per week. And I had gone from 7,000 subscribers when I started to 30,000 by the end of harvest. So it was just like, that was crazy. Now what, And so that was the point where I talked to my wife and told her what was going on, because she wasn't paying any attention. That was just my little goofy hobby at the time. And it was like, she's the one, honestly, who brought it to light and said, hey, we might have something here that might be worth pursuing. And I remember telling her, my buddies and her, we were all sitting around playing cards one night after this video blew up. And we were talking about the possibility of income from YouTube, which I never really figured would be enough to make it worth it. And she had looked into it a bunch and started telling me, what we could do, this and that. And I remember looking at her and I said, if you turn my hobby into a job, I will quit. I don't want this hobby to be a job. And now here I am, like 3-4 years later, trying to figure out, am I a farmer or a YouTuber?
So where does that leave you now? What's going to happen?
I don't know. We're going to hit 1 million subscribers here in the next couple days. That's a big milestone for us, something we've been looking at for a few years. It's crazy to think back on. Long term, we don't have any huge goals. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I should do with it. I'm still having fun with it. There's definitely days where it gets busy, and I'll be straight with you. It can get downright annoying sometimes when I'm trying to farm, right? But I took it on. We created this monster, and we're going to keep doing it for a little while yet. See where it goes.
Yeah. I had a couple employees that met you at a Minnesota Wild game and they came back to work the next day and were just all excited. But, you know, I think what's really cool about where you're at and what you've done so far is you've really expanded out and the people you would have never met otherwise. And now the volleying back and forth, and now you're going and touring places and telling people about other forms of agriculture. I mean,
Yeah.
do you enjoy that? Has that been a ride?
I love it. I mean, that's my favorite thing to do. Last year, you're talking about Trevor Bales. So Trevor, and my buddy Randy and Ryan Vault, the California farmer, he's an almond farmer in the Central Valley of California. We were able to go out to California last year and we spent, I think it was 5 days just working our way up from Southern California, literally right on the border. I mean, we visited the border and we worked our way up all the way to Sacramento and we did 5 days of videos there. And it was a lot of work. Like we were pushing to not waste time. Like we made it clear from the beginning, we were going to have fun with this, but it wasn't a party trip. We weren't going to go out there and party and wake up at 10 a.m. the next day all groggy, right? So we pushed. Like we went to as many farms as we could. We made sure that the people that we were going to were going to be comfortable on camera. Like we were making phone calls and sending emails in the car to try and line this all up. And it was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And we went out there and did videos and got to see some stuff. I mean, it's so awesome to see the diversity within agriculture and try to understand, you know, how things are so much different when you get away from your own backyard. I mean, yeah, you're still farming, but man, I don't know how to take two different trees and how to splice them into one tree and grow a better tree and plant that in the orchard, or how to harvest grapes, or you know, how a packing plant works for oranges. And I don't know how to harvest almonds. I mean, I do now, but man, just seeing the different equipment and the different types of farms and being out there with other farmers to see how that all works, it was a ton of fun. And I love doing that. I did that up the Central Valley. I've done that in South Texas. I got the chance to do that in South Florida. You know, of course, it's always these nice warm areas where they're growing vegetables in the middle of winter. So it makes it a little bit nicer that way to get out of West Central Minnesota. But just, the connections that I've been able to make and the things I've been able to see and the people I've met, it's been really rewarding, really cool.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you're able to walk onto a farm like that and it's just so transparent. They're willing to say, yeah, come on in, see what we do, see how we do it. And I'm assuming because you have the videos on your farm that you've had to be extremely transparent with all of that too. So when you started this versus where you are now, have you changed anything in the way that you farm or some of your equipment and the way that you handle things because you are so public?
I don't think so. You know, there's times and there's moments and there's things that I just know we're not going to put this on camera. If we've got something going on where everybody's irritated and, you know, wrenches are getting close to flying around, I'm turning the camera off, right? There's a time and a place, but for the most part, not really. And I think that's been one of the strengths of our channel is that, you know, I don't go fishing for something new to put on the channel.
It's real.
I mean, yeah, I'm on an active farm. Stuff just comes to me. When I bring the camera with, stuff just happens. And, you know, it might be the smallest, dumbest thing that we as farmers would take for granted, but people that aren't involved in the industry, they didn't realize, you know, some of the difficulties that we can have out here. And just honestly, like how many different caps you have to wear in this industry, the different things that you have to know and understand how to do to get by in your own business out in rural America. It's unlike any other industry, I think. Yes, we're specialized in what we do, but man, that involves a lot of different things. And so I think a lot of people are really surprised when they see that come to light in the videos that, wow, I didn't realize you guys had to deal with that. And then looking at it from the farmer's point of view, I think a lot of farmers take comfort in knowing that they're not the only ones that have some of these struggles. And so I really, you know, there's certain things that I know people just criticize more that I'll keep off camera just to avoid the criticism.
Right.
And most of that was learned just by trial and error. But for the most part, no, there's really nothing that I'm afraid to show because it's all been out there by this point.
Well, from teaching high school students and knowing how many of my students watch your videos, I will tell you, your honesty is what made you contagious to the public. So they love that portion of it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot because that's one thing that I've always tried to be is genuine and transparent. And you know what? I don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
Would you talk a little bit about, I know you say you block the day in and day out things that don't work on the farm when tensions are high and whatnot. Talk about those days though, like about failures, how you fix them, how you do better? How do you know when to quit, when to walk away?
Well, I will say from the millennial farmer's point of view, I feel like I just know when there's something that just doesn't need to be on video. You can just feel people out and know that, okay, if I'm questioning this, if I have to go ask Dad or Jim or whoever's around and say, hey, is this okay on video right now? Then I'm probably just not going to put it on video. If I question it, I'm probably just going to leave the camera down. And honestly, I don't run into too many of those instances. They're both pretty easygoing people. Dad and Jim, I work with easygoing guys the same as myself. So those things don't happen too often. From a farmer's perspective, when you have tough days, it can be really tough, but you have to remember the good things that come with farming. Yeah, it's no fun working out when it's 30 below, being outside. If you've got something to do, especially the livestock people, man, I feel for them this time of year. That is tough. That is brutal. But if agriculture is what you love to do, it is a rewarding career. It is a good way of life. It's a good way to raise a family. It can provide a lot of opportunities. And every job is going to come with things that you don't like. When I'm out in the cold and I'm working and I don't like what I'm doing that day, for me, I think about what it would be like to work in a cubicle all day long. That would be worse than anything I'm doing on a farm. And other people maybe don't think so, but for me, that is definitely the way that I look at it.
Zach, you have this impeccable skill of being able to turn something that is so seemingly and obviously negative into something that is an opportunity and something positive. So we talked about the haters a little bit before and that negative energy that comes from the social space. But how do you decipher between someone who is truly trying to be negative or a hater and someone who just does not understand?
I think a lot of the times that just comes through on the comments and the way that it is. If you're talking online, you can tell by somebody's comment if they're just genuinely concerned and they're maybe a little bit abrasive and it's because they're worried about what you're doing or what's going on, versus somebody that's just downright upset and disrespectful. Maybe they're typing really fast and they just sound belligerent, right? They sound like an angry guy in a bar. That person probably isn't worth your time. You have to just let that go. But somebody that just seems a little bit abrasive, that doesn't understand what you're doing out there, that's a person that if you respond respectfully, you're probably going to get a conversation out of them. And that's the way you have to do it. And there again, it's not good timing. If you're in a bad mood yourself personally, if I'm not in a good mood, it's never a good time to try to strike up a respectful conversation with somebody.
Oh, on social media, yeah.
Right. And sometimes I'll be in a bad mood, maybe because of other comments I've seen from that, angry guy in a bar type of person.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's just stop with the comments right now. You got to just focus your energy on something else in that moment.
Yeah. And how often do you engage in those negative comments? How do you choose? This is something I want to talk about versus, you know what, let's just stop the comments right here. And have you ever deleted a comment? How do you handle all of that?
Oh, I definitely delete comments. Yeah. I realized pretty early on, for me personally, I have no problem blocking people.
Yeah.
And it's been pointed out to me a million times that, well, if you block somebody, you're being weak and then they win. And that's not the way I see it. The way I see it is my channel is my space and I can let anybody into my party that I want to.
And they can unsubscribe from you. And that's okay too.
If you're not having fun here over on my channel, then get out of here. The rest of us don't need you here. And I'll decide that. If I don't like what you're doing, get out of my house. Go somewhere else. I've blocked people that'll then screenshot it and then they share it all over social media that it's like they had some big victory because the millennial farmer blocked them. Congratulations, I guess. If that's how, you get your happiness in life, whatever. I don't decide, that 7 o'clock every night I'm going to go on and go through a bunch of comments. At random times, I'll look at the comments. It seems like YouTube just totally randomly sends me comments throughout the day. So I could have a day where I'll get 1,000 comments and I'll see 6 of them. Usually I'll open them up if one interests me, and then I'll read quickly through another 30 more. I'll reply to the ones I feel like, I try to hit the positive ones more than the negative ones. And I just decide as I go if the negative ones are worth my time or not in the moment.
Yeah. And it is important to decide what is worth your time. And you have gone into, you started with YouTube. And then you expanded into all of these different avenues. And I have kids watching you on TikTok. And then there's Facebook and there's Instagram. And it's, well, I follow them on this and I follow them on that. I know you guys have a podcast. There's websites involved. Have you ever just started something and then realized, you know what, maybe my time isn't best spent here? And how did you make that decision?
Yeah, I've started a Snapchat 2 or 3 times. And every time I just realize quickly that this just isn't my thing. I don't get it. I don't care for it. It's like I'm forcing it. And then I just delete the app from my phone. I've finally decided that Snapchat just is not for me. It's not my thing. TikTok, I enjoy TikTok a lot. A lot of people enjoy following me there because it's a little bit of a different side of me, which I decided right away if I'm going on TikTok, it's a little bit more unfiltered. It's still the same me. It's the same Zach, but I'm not filtering anything out. I'm trying to be funny. I'm trying to have fun with it, but it's definitely a little bit different side of me. And I enjoy that, but at the same time, I'm not consistent with it. You know, I might post something on TikTok today, and it might be a month before I even remember I have it again. Instagram and Facebook, I've stuck with pretty consistently since pretty early on. I really have enjoyed Instagram a lot. It seems like it's slowing down now, but for a few years there, Instagram was a lot of fun. Snapchat, I gave up on. I had a LinkedIn for 2 months. I think I still have it, but I haven't had it on my phone in 3 years. The Off the Husk podcast that we've done right here in the basement that I'm sitting in now has been a lot of fun. But there again, it's one of those things where it was a lot of work. So it was fun, but it was also a lot of work. And it was like it was this extra thing that we suddenly started to feel obligated to have to do, which kind of made us feel like then we're required to line up with some sponsors. And then we had to start, paying my buddy to come on. And then it's, do we pay the guests? How do we do all this? And then how do we get good guests to rural Minnesota? Because we just feel like in person was so much of a better way to do our style of podcast. We've only done 2 podcasts in the last year. So you could say it's one of those things we started and gave up on, but we do hope to start it up again one day. We just have not allowed it to make us feel obligated, I guess.
I think it goes to show that your passion is still production agriculture too. You're not going to give up on the time that you need to spend doing those things too.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, I refuse to, give up on the fact that I'm a farmer first, and all of this other stuff is enjoyable and it's good for us. I mean, it's been fantastic for my family, but I am a farmer first, definitely.
Yay.
So Zach, will you talk on one really cool thing you do and one really fun thing you do? The cool thing being you've been really involved in grain bin rescue. And will you talk about your race cars?
So the grain bin rescue deal, this happened a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, whatever it was now. We decided that, we've got this big platform, we've got this leverage. Let's start pushing some good out there. So we did some stuff with Farm Rescue Organization, and we felt like we had hit on that. A great organization, but we had done that. And we decided, based off the fact that we were really seeing it in the news a lot with farmers getting into unfortunate situations in the grain bins, we decided, let's hit this and let's see what we can do. And the original idea really was that we were going to donate some money. And what we wanted to do was donate money into a fund and then decide which, volunteer fire departments or first responder crews were going to get this money. And so we put it out there that we were going to do this, and people jumped on it like, well, I want to be a part of it. How do I do this? And I had sponsors calling saying, hey, we think this is awesome. Can we donate? And so my wife, Becky, who works so much in the background on this stuff, she set up a GoFundMe account and we put it out there and said, okay, yeah. I mean, we've had enough requests. We came up with a GoFundMe account. It was linked in the description of the videos. If you guys feel like you want to participate, go there and donate. And then at the end of harvest, we're going to see what we've got, and we're going to figure out, we don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure out where this money is going to go. And it's all going to go towards grain bin training and equipment for these volunteer departments. And by the end of harvest, we had over $60,000 that we had raised between the GoFundMe, ourselves, our sponsors. We went live on YouTube to divvy this out, which essentially the bowl is still right here. It has never left the basement. Here it is. Like, it's a popcorn bowl that had the names of probably 200 different fire departments in it that had all got their name in that pail by sending us emails and saying, hey, we want in on this. And we did tell them, let us know what you're going to buy with it. And then, we don't want to tell you how to spend your money, but give us an idea on what you think you want to buy with it. It had to line up with some form of grain bin rescue equipment or training. We went live on YouTube and people started donating through the live stream on YouTube. It turned into like this weird telethon deal. I mean, We raised
That is awesome.
it was almost $70,000. Like money kept coming in, so we kept drawing more out of the bowl.
Awesome.
And we gave to 50 some different departments in 13 or 14 different states that night. And then the second time we did it, it was a little bit slower. I think people had already been a part of it. So maybe we should have looked at something else, but we still were over $35,000. So
Yeah.
all in all, it's been over $100,000. It's been like 70 or 80 different departments now. And I know for sure that we have saved at least one life in Illinois that was saved because of the equipment and the training that this department got through this grain bin rescue deal that we did with our followers, with our viewers.
And that one life made it all worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Yeah. And, there could be others that we don't know about, or maybe there will be in the future, or maybe even if we just raise the awareness of it, that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
Is raise the awareness of it and keep people from getting into those situations in the first place. Then on to the fun thing. A lot of people, especially viewers of the channel that don't know me or aren't from the upper Midwest here, have no idea, but some people think that I got into racing somehow through YouTube and through the Millennial Farmer. I started racing go-karts when I was 10, and I moved to the big car, to the Midwest Modified, which is an open wheel 400 horsepower car, when I was 15. And from there, I've run a bunch of different divisions, including 12 years in a dirt late model. I ran 2 years of snowcross on snowmobile. I mean, I just love racing. I always have, especially dirt track. Right now, I'm working on an old Ford Ranger that I'm turning into a race truck that I'm going to be taking to Bristol Motor Speedway and racing against 40 or 50 other trucks with Cletus McFarlane and his YouTube channel. And it's pretty funny. I mean, it's going to be crazy. We got to put roll cages in these things and gut the interiors, but we can't really do much to the engine. Like, it's going to be a free-for-all. It's going to be madness, but...
Isn't that a dirt track down there?
So Bristol is not a dirt track, but they bring dirt in every winter now, and they turn it into a dirt track. I was fortunate enough to race at Bristol in our own modified last March, and it went pretty well. And then I got back there again in September, and I raced a Crown Victoria on the asphalt. So I have run there on dirt and on tar now. And I'm looking forward to going back there on dirt in a pickup. I'm actually flying out to go to Northern Nevada to race an off-road buggy out there. So that'd be a 400-mile race. That one is something that came from YouTube. Brian is a buddy out in Oregon that I've gotten to know now through YouTube, and he's got this off-road buggy that we're going to go see what I can do, I guess. And I have no idea what's going on. I just know that I'm going to be racing a buggy through the desert for 400 miles, and I am pumped.
Sometimes it's better not to know all the details until you just show up, do it.
That's right. I totally agree.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear how this truck goes.
It's like an 8 or 9 hour race from my understanding. So like, if you got to go to the bathroom, you get out and you go quick. Or I actually asked him this and he's like, man, it's hot out. You're sweating like crazy. It's 9 hours. He's like, most guys just go.
Oh,
space diaper.
I don't think there's a diaper. I think you just go.
And see, this is where I appreciate the transparency, because we're going to hear about this, Lindsay.
I mean, I got questions on this. So we're going to have to do a Zach Johnson round 2 just to catch
up the race car.
So this race, I will be doing as much as I can on my second channel, Between the Rows, which I brought a lot of the racing to. So this buggy race through the desert will absolutely be on that channel. And I promise you, if I take a leak in my fire suit in the middle of the race, I will absolutely let the viewers know. I have no shame.
Just tag us in that episode, would you, so we can update.
Subscribe now.
Maybe I'll just do it for the content. And then afterwards, Brian can be like, I can't believe you did that. Nobody does that. You believe me?
No, let's do it.
Let's just do it.
That was awesome, Zach.
That was awesome. I have a lot of more fun questions too. I bet Lindsay does too. But the first one is, I need to know, how did Millennial Farmer become the name of what you do?
I guess I was jotting down names for a day or two, just like trying to rack my brain. The only other one that came as close as Millennial Farmer was like, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something along the lines of Farm Dad or Midwest Farm Dad or something like that, just because I thought that would be catchy and family friendly. Ultimately, I went with Millennial Farmer because I felt like the word millennial for sure 5-6 years ago was super trendy. I mean, everybody wanted to know what millennials were up to 6-7 years ago. It was all the rage. I hate to admit that we've gotten a little older now and they don't care as much anymore. But at the time, millennials were what people were talking about. And I knew that. The second reason, though, was because I wanted people to see that there are millennials involved in agriculture. And it's not just, the hipster with the straw hat going to the farmer's market, which is fine if that's you. But there are millennials out there who are multi-generational and, driving big tractors and doing row crop stuff and working with livestock and we're not afraid to get our hands dirty. We're still farmers, right? And we might be millennials. And I knew that the word millennial and farmer were a little bit contradictory. You know, you put them together and it would maybe intrigue some people. So that was really the idea behind that.
I think it does better than Farm Dad. I think it did you well.
However, that could have been a really good joke page on Twitter.
My wife was not on board with the whole Farm Dad thing or whatever it really was. I remember she was definitely not voting for that one. So
Smart
we ended
woman.
up with Millennial Farmer.
Awesome. It's awesome. Zach, I know we've kept you long enough here and it's been a fun podcast conversation. I know the kids will love this. Tell us what you do to keep it rural in your daily life.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I live it. I am rural. It's where I'm at every day. It's what I love. You know, I love working with the soil and getting out to see how people work with livestock and just knowing the people. And I don't know how I could survive any other way. You know, when I go to a major city, it's just not my thing. I just can't wait to get out of there, you know, and I know that there's a lot of people who agree with me, people from the rural areas, but I mean, I just live it. It's what I am.
Yeah. And for those who are listening, because we do see a lot of students, we see a lot of ag teachers and a lot of those production agriculturalists. How do they find you, Zach? What are some different ways we can connect with you?
Well, the easiest way is YouTube. I mean, go type in Millennial Farmer. If you type in Millennial Farmer on Google, you'll find me on most all the social channels. That's how you follow me. You can follow me however you want, except on Snapchat. There's not going to be much going on there.
Or LinkedIn. No LinkedIn.
Or LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn, yeah.
You can follow me there too, but you're not going to get a response because I haven't been on it in 3 years.
Is there a place that we can find this cool Millennial Farmer swag? A lot of my kids ask about that.
Yeah, if you're looking for merchandise, that is all on farmfocused.com, which is linked. I mean, if you go to my website, you'll find it. Just be careful. If you go to Google and you type in like Millennial Farmer merchandise, you'll get the Chinese ads or whoever's sitting wherever around the country and they're ripping off our merch. It'll take you 2 months to get, and it's going to be like a piece of junk shirt. You're not going to be happy you ordered it from there. So make sure you're at farmfocused.com.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Zach, for this. We look forward to hopefully talking to you again down the line. I think you're going to be a hot commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. I hope so. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the next time you guys let me come on.
It's not a party without you there. Follow Our Crazy on Facebook and Instagram, and be sure to check out all episodes and extras at keepinitruralgirls.com.
That's all, folks.